Welcome to Game Fondue Reviews. In this video, we're going to take a look at the legendary Settlers of Catan, or as it's called now, just Catan. This is one you've probably heard of because it's been around for a long time and it's very successful. It pretty much revolutionized the board gaming hobby. But if you haven't, I'm glad you're hearing about it here first. So essentially, players are settling the island of Catan, and we're going to see how that's done by taking a look at the rules, going through some example turns, and then I'll be back with some final remarks. This is Catan set up for a 3-player game. I just used the beginner suggested map in the rule book, but you can randomize all the tiles and numbers as much as you'd like. You can even randomize the harbors. They give you pieces to do that as well. You just lay out the resources and face up piles. The development cards you shuffle and you put a face down stack, and you give each player all the pieces in the color of their choice. And lastly, you put the robber in the desert. The robber is Bad News Bears, so watch out for him. On a game turn, there's basically 3 phases, although the second 2 phases are combined. The first thing you do is you roll the dice and you distribute resources, and the next players have opportunities to both trade and build. They can interchange between them, and we'll get there momentarily. The game ends when somebody reaches 10 points, and it ends immediately when it's their turn. It has to be their turn when they get to 10 points. So let's jump into how you play. So the first thing you do is roll the dice. I'm just going to stick with this set of dice because I rolled a 6, which I really like. So there's a couple places on the board that have a 6. Here is one of them. Here is one of them. So anyone who has a settlement touching that 6 would score the corresponding resource. So anybody with a settlement or a city next to this would get some ore. Each space corresponds with one of these cards. It's pretty self-explanatory. Sheep or wool goes here, lumber goes in the forest, wheat out here, and brick there, as well as the ore we just discussed. Now, if you roll a 7, the dreaded 7, first thing everybody does is count the cards in their hand. If they have 8 or more cards, they have to discard half. You do get to round down if it's an odd number, so thank heavens for that. But then you must move the robber, whoever rolled it, to a certain space. So let's say he moves him here. Then he steals a card from one of the players with a city or settlement next to this space. So you take it right out of their hand. You don't get to look at it before you take it, but it's yours now. Also, if now somebody rolls a 9, this place will not produce for those who are around it. So just be mindful of that. But that's the first thing you do on your turn. Now, the next 2 parts of your turn you can interchange. The first is trading. You can freely trade with other players, though the active player always has to be involved. If it's red's turn, blue and white can't trade with each other. Blue can trade with red, white can trade with red. But red must be involved. Also, you can trade with the bank. And the way you do that is you discard 4 cards of one type back to their pile, and you can take any other space. Now, if you have cities built along these harbors here, like you may be able to see in the shot that this says 3-to-1. Essentially, having settlements or cities next to these harbors, while they don't produce as many resources because they're on the edge of the board and usually only next to 1 or 2 things, they give you benefits. Like here, you can trade 3-to-1 instead of 4-to-1. And there's also 2-to-1s that are specific to a certain type of resource. Those can be really helpful. And now building. So players can trade and build as they want, but we'll go over some of the things. You have a little placard here that shows you the different costs of different things. The first is a road, and the roads are just usually, depending on your edition, just these little pieces of wood, and you'll just lay them out along the edges of hexes. Now, you can only build roads adjacent to roads that you've already built, so you can't just start building in the middle of nowhere. One of the interesting things about roads is that if you're the first player to get to 5 roads continuously, so if there's forks in your roads, they don't count as a continuous road, like so. This here, 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 and here. Looks like we're pretty close to 5, but we forked off, so now we only have a continuous road of 4. So we wouldn't quite be eligible for the longest road, but that's worth 2 points, so it's good to have. It's also important to note that if you do have the longest road, and let's pretend this is a little bit longer, and somebody builds a settlement here, they've essentially cut your road into different parts, so you may lose that card. And anybody who makes a road longer than yours will take it as well. And that segues right into the next thing we might talk about building, and that is settlements. Roads are not worth any points, but settlements are worth 1 point, and that is on this card as well. So settlements, unlike roads, are built at the corners of usually 3, but along the outside of the board it can be 2 or just 1. And you can't build them anywhere either. They have to connect to a road you already have. And you also cannot, even if you have a road, for instance, you cannot build settlements right next to one another. So right here I could not stick another settlement, nor could blue, nor could white. They must be at least 2 edges apart for settlements to be built. And also you're limited with all of your stuff. So for instance, settlements, you get 5 of them. If you want to build more than 5 settlements, unfortunately you'll be unable to do so. Next is cities. And cities are like big settlements. Cities are worth 2 points. And another great thing about cities, aside from being worth 2 points, is they produce 2 resources. So if you have a city here and someone rolls a 5, you're going to get 2 bricks instead of just the 1 that you would have got with a settlement. But you can't just build cities wherever you want. You have to take a settlement, and when you build a city, you're upgrading it. So keep that in mind with cities. And the last thing you can build, or I guess I should say buy, is a development card. Essentially comes in 3 types. There are these cards over here, and one of the easiest to understand types is this progress card. And what this is essentially just a green card that'll go in your hand. It usually has a very strong ability, but you cannot use it the turn you buy it. So you keep it down and you save it for when you want to do it. Now the next type, and one of the more common types, is the knight card. And the knight works very similar to the robber, except people don't have to discard their cards. So again, you cannot play the knight. The card you buy him has to be on a later turn. You cannot play him the turn you buy him. It must be on a later turn. And then you put him down and you move the robber and you steal a card from somebody with a settlement or a city at that space. Another neat thing about the knights is the first person to get 3 of them is eligible for the largest army. And that works the same way as the longest road. That's worth 2 points. And if somebody passes you, you're going to lose that card, so pay attention. And the last type, the third type, is the victory point. It's very simply just worth victory points. So you can play that the first turn you get it. If you're at those 10 points, you win the game. Otherwise, you just keep this face down in front of you and you reveal it at the end. Behold Catan. Let's get to it. So the first thing players are going to do is place their starting settlements. Everybody gets 2 and they get them with a road. So we're just going to start with white, and he's going to stick it over here and the road's coming out. I'm not going to think about this too much, but blue's going to go over here. That looks like a nice place for a settlement. And then red's going to go right here. Now, it snakes back, so red's actually going to go first the second time, and where you put the second is very important. Reason being is it's going to dictate your starting hand. So, for instance, right here, I'm actually going to stick in there. Red gets a lumber, an ore, and a sheep as his starting hand. And now blue, and of course you keep this secret, but right now I'm just going to leave it face up. And now blue picks his second space as well, so he's just going to be the master of the sheep. He's going to go right there, and he's going to get 2 sheep and a wheat. And keep in mind that settlements must be at least 2 spaces away from other settlements. And white's going to finish us off. He wants to be up here for whatever reason. It's where he likes. So he's going to get wheat, brick, and sheep. Now, so white's going to go first because he was the first person to place. So he's going to take the 2 dice. He's going to roll them. He gets an 8. A beautiful, beautiful 8. So everywhere with an 8 produces. So white gets a wheat for himself. Good job, white. And blue gets a brick. Now everybody can get them, even other people, on your turn. So now he wants to try to make a trade with somebody. He really wants some lumber. He says, will anybody give me lumber? And the red player says, I'll give you lumber, but I want wheat. And they say, okay, great. So they have a deal. So even though he has enough resources to make a settlement, he has nowhere to build it. So he's first going to take this brick and this wood and use it to build a road. And he's going to stick that road right there. And now he's got a road of 3. So now it's blue's turn. Blue rolls the dice. He gets a 6. So this gets a lumber for red and an ore for red as well. Red had a really good turn there. So blue also wants a lumber, but unfortunately there's no one to trade with him, and he doesn't have enough of one resource to cash it in. So now we go up to red. Red rolls an 11. Red and blue get wheat, which was nice. And where's the other 11? Nobody's on the other 11, so nobody gets anything. Red would really like to build a city, so he asks if anybody has any ore, and they don't, and they won't trade it to him. So instead, he's getting a development card. He just draws a card from the deck. He looks at it, doesn't show it to anybody, and he wants to play this now, but he's got to wait a turn. So now white rolls, and white rolls a 7. So because white rolled a 7, everybody counts the number of cards in their hands. Red is safe with 3, the development card does not count, and blue is safe with 5, and white is safe with 2. So nobody has to discard, and white just takes this guy and he moves him. He's going to go right here. So that means if a 6 is rolled, red isn't going to get any ore, and he's going to get to steal a card from red because red is the only person touching here. So red holds out his hand, white grabs it, and play continues. So, white can continue his turn by trading and building, and the game ends when somebody gets to 10 points. So we're going to jump ahead to an end position. This is the end of the game. This is what it might look like at the end of the game. Red is the winner with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points. And it's red's turn, so he's declared victory. Just to be clear, white had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points, and blue had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for longest road, and 6 because he had a development card worth 1 point. Congratulations, red. Gotta love Catan. It's been around 20 years and still going strong. The gameplay is amazingly interactive. Somebody rolls a dice, and during everybody's turn, everybody's getting resources and trading. So everybody's really involved socially throughout the entire experience. It's done amazingly well commercially, not quite Monopoly level, but it's made it into mainstream media, and there's all kinds of expansions for it. There's real simple stuff like add 5 or 6 players, but then there's you can play Catan in space now if you want to. They just released a new 5th edition, so there's newer editions, bunch of newer editions than this that you should probably check out if you're new to it. But if this is a game you have not played, you got to check it out. That's Settlers of Catan. Thanks for watching.